Lay down and relax. I shall read to you. Ah, you've returned, little human. Good. I have more tales for you. 4 shimmering curiosities gathered from the corners of your Middle Ages, brushed clean of dust, and warmed beneath my own fire. Tonight, we wander deeper into the forgotten, into ticking workshops where time has a heartbeat, into attics where wind takes shape, along moonlit coasts where the sea keeps its own quiet hours, and beneath the desert sands where light remembers everything your kind forgets. These stories, yes, chapters 5 through 8, are fragments of human brilliance that even I, a creature centuries older than your oldest ruins, find oddly charming. So settle yourself, pull your blankets closer, unless you prefer dragon fire warmth. Let your breathing slow. For I am here once more, watching over you, guiding you through the mysteries your ancestors left behind, and perhaps toward dreams waiting just beyond your reach. Chapter 1. The Watchmaker's Apprentice. In Nuremberg, where every hour had its bell and every bell had its story, there lived a watchmaker named Elias, a man who coaxed time into sound. His workshop smelled of oil and brass, and his hands bore the fine cuts of a craftsman, each scar gleaming like a tally of patient years. He believed every tick of a clock was a conversation, each second a tiny, polite bore between past and future. Time is polite, I agree. It waits for no dragon, but it rarely mocks us openly. Elias had only one apprentice, Thomas, a quiet boy whose patience mirrored his master's. Thomas claimed he could hear the difference between seconds, that the silence between ticks held its own language. Elias encouraged him. Time is courteous, he said. It waits until you listen. A delightful idea, though I assure you, time never waits for a dragon deciding between second breakfast and third. Together they built clocks that chimed like choirs, gears fine as frost crystals, faces painted with suns and moons that flirted across the glass. But Elias's final design consumed him. A clock meant to run forever without winding, powered solely by perfect balance. He called it the heart. Winter bit hard that year. Elias grew thin, yet he worked late into the frozen evenings, breath fogging his lenses, fingers trembling but determined. When the final gear aligned, he smiled. Now it will breathe for me, he whispered. Days later, he was gone, and the clock, heartbreakingly, was silent. Thomas dismantled it 100 times, tears falling like loose screws onto the table, but the mechanism refused to stir. Centuries later, restorers discovered the truth, and it tasted bittersweet even to my ancient palate. The balance wheel had been wound with a single human hair coated in gold, Elias's own. The weight was perfect only when his living pulse steadied it. When his heart stopped, so too did the clocks. Today the heart sits in a museum, still unwound. Visitors lean close, swearing they hear a faint pulse within. Some say it's imagination. Others, Those who listen as Thomas once did believe time remembers its maker. And each year, on the anniversary of Elias's passing, the hour hand shifts by the faintest breath. Proof, perhaps, that even time grieves beautifully. Chapter 2. The Painter Who Captured Wind. In Bruges, that winter-bitten city, where canals freeze smooth as dragon-scale glass, and the shipyards ring like distant battlefields, a painter named Willem van Orst labored in a drafty attic, attempting something even dragons rarely attempt: to paint the invisible. He claimed the wind had color, if one stared long enough. I admired that. Most humans blink too often to notice anything subtle. His friends called him mad, until they saw his first masterpiece, a meadow of grass bent in one direction beneath a perfectly still sky, each blade leaning as though breathed upon by something vast and unseen. I, of course, have breathed upon many meadows. They seldom look that gentle afterward. Willem spent hours observing how curtains billowed, how candle flames bowed, how smoke shivered before surrendering to stillness. He ground minerals into powder so fine it floated on his breath, then caught it in oil, spreading it whisper-thin across his canvases. "If the air is restless," he said, "so must the paint be," a philosophy close to my own. If the world moves, better move with it, or risk being mistaken for a statue. Patrons begged for saints and portraits. Willem painted weather, gusts, whispers, invisible dancers tugging at the edges of the world. When the plague arrived, he sealed himself in his attic and painted the last sight he ever beheld: light drifting through dust, the smallest storm the universe can make. They found the window open to winter, the air cold enough to bite even a dragon's nose. His body was gone, but the painting remained. Under sunlight it stirs, under candlelight it sleeps. Modern analysis found mica and powdered quartz in the pigment, crystals that bend light and shimmer with the faintest movement of air. A warm breath passing over the surface, and the colors shift, green to gold, stillness to wind. No one knows where he learned the technique, or why he allowed winter to claim him. Some say he joined the element he adored, dissolving himself into the breeze. To this day, when wind skirts the rooftops of Bruges before a storm, townsfolk whisper that Willem is mixing colors again, still trying to paint the restless air he could never tame. Chapter 3. The Clock of Tides. Along Cornwall's wild coast, where fog lingers like a dragon's sigh, and cliffs crumble like forgotten manuscripts, once stood a monastery that measured the moon rather than the sun. Its brothers kept time by water, not bells. Hanging in their cloister was a strange sphere of oak and glass, filled with salt water that rose and fell of its own accord, as if listening to the sea. Brother Anselm made it. I watched him once from the rocks. He never noticed, though his cloak did flutter pleasingly in my downdraft. He believed time was a tide that carried souls between shores. Each night he studied the sea, noting how waves mirrored the stars, how the moon guided both. From this devotion he forged an instrument, a water clock that chimed softly when tides turned. As the moon's pull lifted the inner water, a hidden bell rang, marking the hour fishermen should return home safely. Travelers marveled at it for a century, until a storm shredded the coast and swallowed the abbey whole. The brothers fled inland, leaving the clock to the waves. The sea is greedy like that. I should know. We are distant cousins. Centuries later, divers found its remains encased in coral. The oak had rotted, but the bell survived. When touched, it rang, a single, perfect note, as though the tide itself had spoken. Modern measurements revealed its rhythm matched the lunar cycle to the minute. By divine grace or empirical genius, Anselm had built a device that followed the breathing of the earth. Scholars now insist it was a primitive barometer. The monks, wiser in their simplicity, called it what it was. A prayer that never stopped speaking. Today the ruins lie beneath the sea, and some nights, when the wind stills and the moon ascends like a silver judge, locals hear a distant chime rising through the waves, counting not hours, but forgiveness. Chapter 4. The Glass Library. Beneath the sands of Cairo, those ancient, restless dunes that shift like a dragon curling in sleep, lies a chamber the locals call the Glass Library. It was discovered quite by accident when construction workers broke through an old wall and saw light flicker strangely beneath their torches. Inside, stacked like panes of frozen dawn, lay hundreds of translucent tablets, glass pages inscribed with writing that glowed faintly when touched. A beautiful sight. Even I, who has hoarded libraries larger than mountains, felt my old heart flare with envy. Legends tell of Zahra al-Samir, a scholar who feared war might devour the wisdom of her era. When parchment grew scarce, she sought a medium flame could not consume. She melted desert sand into thin sheets and etched them with a copper stylus dipped in molten gold. Her words were said to sing when sunlight struck them. I can confirm this. Some knowledge truly does sing. Zahra wrote of medicine, astronomy, poetry. She recorded everything. Remedies for fever, constellations marked by caravans, the songs of sailors returning from India. To protect her archive, she hid it underground and sealed it with obsidian. When the world forgets, she wrote, light will remember. Centuries passed, civilizations crumbled, but her glass endured. Chemists later found traces of silicon oxide and rare metals now used in data storage. The glow came from phosphorescent gold compounds, primitive optical encoding, the ancestor of your compact disc. Dragons, of course, prefer memory stored in the mind, but Zahra's brilliance rivals even our ancient traditions. Half the library remains buried, unchanged beneath shifting sand. At certain hours, the dunes shimmer with a peculiar ripple, as though the desert itself is reading. Those who enter the chamber report feeling suspended in a thought, warm, weightless, infinite. Zahra's dream outlived her body, her century, even her people. The desert, which devours all things, chose instead to cradle her words. And so, small traveler, our journey through these four wonders comes to a gentle close. You have walked through ticking chambers, where a watchmaker poured his heartbeat into brass. You have stood in the drifting quiet of an attic, where a painter tried to trap the wind. have listened to the sea's whispered hours at the monastery of tides. And you have stepped beneath Cairo's sands, where glass tablets glow with the memory of long-gone hands. You've done well to follow me this far. Humans tire quickly. It's one of your more endearing weaknesses. Now, the hour grows soft again. Even the stars above us seem to dim their bright claws. Rest, little human. Let the stories settle like warm ash in your thoughts. Let sleep rise around you like a gentle mist in my lair. I will be here when next you return, with new wonders held carefully between my wings. Until then, breathe, dream, and sleep safely under a dragon's watch. Good night, humans.